This video is dedicated to aspiring artists out there. If you are an aspiring artist of any sort, maybe you like to write books or screenplays, you like to be a film director, a photographer, maybe you like music, to compose music, maybe you like dancing or to design clothes, be a makeup artist, maybe you're into painting, perhaps. Regardless of your craft, regardless of your interest, the purpose of this video is to clarify some things for you, things that are very rarely being talked about, but should be talked about to a much larger extent, and you may not realize it yourself. I want to start by making a clear distinction. If you are an artist, if you consider yourself so, let's just take painting, for instance. You paint and you paint for the sake of your own self-gratification is what I like to call it. And you feel a genuine sense of gratification from doing it. And that's your only reason for doing it. Well, I've got nothing to say to you, actually. You've achieved that you've won. However, the distinction is when you begin to talk about money, when you begin to talk about fame, when you begin to talk about appraisal, acknowledgement, when you begin to talk about career, when you begin to talk about being able to make art your way of living, vocation being the word here. I've had people who come to me and say, this screenplay, I want you to read it. It's going to be such a great screenplay. This is what it's about. This music that I've worked on is going to be such a banger, such a hit. Everybody's going to love it. And I'll sit there and listen to everything they have to say. And I love their enthusiasm. But I have to tell you this, and I want to be perfectly honest with you, my friend. Having you tell me what you want to achieve with this, having you tell me your end goal, I got to tell you this. I mean, you tell me how you made it, how that idea came to you, why it's going to be good, why people are going to resonate with it. You're focusing so much on improving your craft that you forget the most important thing. I mean, how are you even going to get people tuned in? I mean, nobody is going to display any interest in what you've created. Your friends and your family might care, but that's not going to help you anywhere near your end goal. What you are talking about is scope, reach, influence, recognition. I'm not going to talk about the quality of the work. That has nothing to do with anything. There's a lot of trash music out there, a lot of poor executed work. You might say, well, that's subjective. Some people like it. And what you think, what I think, does not matter. What matters is, what does the masses think? Again, what I talked about earlier, do you create the work for you, or do you create it for the people? Because if you're talking about fame, you got to do it created for the people. Your influence will be measured directly by the amount of attention you receive. Attention being the key word here. How effective are you in terms of getting people, large number of people, to prioritize, to take time out of their day, to sit and actively absorb what you've created? That is people burning calories, burning energy, dedicated towards your name, dedicated towards your work. That is power, my friend. And another thing I'd like to touch on is the dependency aspect. How dependent are people on you? Something you got to consider. If you're an electrician or a plumber or a mechanic or an engineer, you'll notice people go out of their way, take initiative to look for you, find you, and consult you to get their problem solved. Your refrigerator isn't working, you have a car malfunction, you have a heat in your house all of a sudden. That's some serious problems right there, real life problems. Art is very much unlike that. Art is about human expression, sort of a secondary nature. Expression, human expression, a lot of people have a lot to say all of the time. I mean, who wouldn't want to be listened to? Wait, let's just take you in, all focus on you. We cherish you. We'll love what you say. Whatever you say, we're going to take it as the truth. We're going to resonate with it. We're going to agree with it. I mean, that way, I mean, that's a reality for very, 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 very few exceptional individuals. I guess, well, I'm certain that the challenge for you as an aspiring artist is to consider, you got to really think about how do I put together a package, so to speak, that expresses value? And how do I get people to notice it and be interested in it? It's really just a business. I can give you one example, one that's being done on repeat for decades, and one that requires perhaps the least amount of innovation, that being the film industry. So the studios, the one financing the film, have made sure that they have agreements with a large number of theaters in cinemas in different cities in many different countries, that they will run their film for a percentage of each ticket sold. So the cinemas make sure that they have a place, a big nice place, comfortable chairs, big screen, good picture, good sound, popcorn. That's all business right there. That's a huge part of it. That comes before it's an art. You need to think of yourself as a business person. I like acting, doing impressions, imitations, impersonating others. Reenactments is what they also call it. I do not go out on the street and perform. I would consider that a waste of my time and my energy. People do not care. People are busy. They have their own plans, their own priorities. They're thinking about the thousands of other things. They do not care. Unless you've already made it, unless you've won in life, nobody cares about your story until you win. That's a harsh reality for most people. I'll tell you this, a large part of the work of you as an aspiring artist is to filter out all of the excess noise. Most people do not have a sense of what quality is. They just like what everybody else likes. They just follow the trend. I'll tell you this actually also came to mind. There was an experiment done by a very venerated violin artist. He conducted an experiment. He basically disguised himself and went to a busy metropolitan area, a place with a lot of human traffic. He went there with his violin and played his violin. This is supposedly one of the finest out there. He's a very talented violin player. And he played his violin. And you care to guess how many people came to a standstill to listen to him playing violin? A tiny fraction of the number of people who normally see his performances in an orchestra. Now you might say, well, the people on the street are not on the street to listen to violin. True, but I want to make a point. What I talked about earlier, you want to take your skill, take what you're offering, and present it to people in an appealing way. I gave you one example with the film industry. Again, it varies depending on what kind of industry we're talking about, but the premise remains the same though. You've written a book or a screenplay or you made a piece of music, whatever. There are certainly gatekeepers within any industry. You want to be noticed by a top executive, the person who makes the decisions. You want to get his attention initially, his interest thereafter, and ultimately his recognition, because that person, with all of his money, power, resources, and network, can take your script, your idea, and bring it to life. The hardest part, though, is to get noticed first. How do you do it, you might ask? Well, unfortunately, there's no universal step-by-step guide to that. Some people say you should email your idea, email it to apply for a contest, email it to other screenwriters, email it to studios. I'll tell you, they are getting, especially in this day and age, they're getting constantly bombarded with requests. There is a slim chance for your request to stand out from the rest. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm saying your approach can be optimized. I recommend you physically, in person, approach their office and push your script towards them, push your idea. Because the fact that you put in effort, investing time and energy to delineate yourself shows that you've gone the extra, you really invested, you care about this, and the people you interact with get to see you, they'll have an image of you, get to have a sense of you, and hopefully remember you. It will significantly increase your impact, I promise. And the good thing about this way that I recommend is the fact that any individual who is fond of a certain piece of art is most likely also very fond of the artist that it originated from. There is a clear link there. So you are going to have to do that. That's what I can wholeheartedly recommend. Let them witness the beauty of you. I gotta say, there is really no equal alternative for physical in-person meeting in terms of influence. Video presentation is nice. That's perhaps the closest thing you can get to an authentic impression. It can be poorly or well executed, giving you a perhaps inadequate impression. Somebody may put their own spin on it, have their facade edited. Who knows what kind of fancy things they can do. So you're definitely subject to either over or under evaluation, both inaccurate and undesirable. When you see the behind the scene clips of a movie, it doesn't look nearly as fantastic as the real film. Same thing with actors. You've seen actors or an actress in multiple films. You've seen different versions of her or him in interviews, etc. Yet you still wonder what he's like or what she's like in the real world. You still wonder what it would be like to sit and have a conversation with that person. But with in-person contact, or see all of you in the real world, it's difficult to fake that. Another thing about in-person contact is the fact that, or another thing about video, is the fact that you're not really in control in the same sense. I mean, the person you're sending this video to, did he really watch it? What sort of a state was he in? Was he preoccupied with something else? In a fast-paced world such as today, it could very likely be the case, especially with these people, it could likely be the case that he watched it haphazardly. Physical interaction trumps that.